right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Edgewalker Cafe on June 3rd. We're going to let people come in as they join us. So glad to see you all. What we're going to do today is have a dialogue about global consciousness. It's been an area that has entranced me for the past several years, and I know, Chris Laszlo, it's the same for you. So I'm delighted that you're here and honored that you're here with us. And so what I will be doing is first having an opening contemplation, and then I will share some PowerPoints, and then we'll see if there's any questions or comments about some of the things I've shared, and then I'll send you off to breakout groups with a couple of questions, and then come back and share. So I think I want to go ahead and get started. Let's see, anybody else wanting to come in? No, I think we're good. So I invite you all to come to a place of centeredness in whatever is part of your tradition, your practice. For most people, that has something to do with being aware of your body, your breath, the space around you, quieting your inner thoughts. For some, it's comfortable to close eyes or to have a soft gaze. And coming to stillness, just resting in the stillness for a moment. And in this place of stillness, imagine that the earth is needing healing, and that you are an acupuncture needle. You're an acupuncture point on the earth's surface, sending energy and connecting to energy of other acupuncture people, points around the planet, sensing the connections as each of us send our energy into the earth and receive energy from the earth. And as each of these points interconnect, creating a web of energetic connections around the planet. And again, resting in this image or in these thoughts. Gently sending loving energy into the earth wherever you are, receiving energy from the earth, and connecting to others who are doing the same. Not only those on this call, but nuns in abbeys all around the world, and groups of Tibetan monks, and Native Americans, and shamans, and mystics, and business people, and students all over the world. People are practicing something like this, energy connections. And as we get ready to return to our presence in the Zoom call, take a deep breath, inhaling and exhaling, and join our group. Thank you. So I'm going to ask if you're not muted. Oh, it looks like everybody's muted. Then we'll go ahead and start. I want to share a PowerPoint presentation with you. It'll just be a short one, but to plant some things to think about, plant some seeds to think about. Can you see this? Does this work for everybody? Okay, great.
I can see it, Judi, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. There's a way, let me see. I forget how this works. This is the way it works. There we go. All right. Okay. So this presentation is sponsored by Edgewalkers, but also as part of our outreach in a group that Chris and I are in called the Global Consciousness Initiative, that is at the George Washington University and also partnering with other organizations. And I want to begin by reading this quote that comes from the book Creative Work, Creative Work by Willis Harman and John Horman. And in the intro, John Horman wrote this, which I read in the early 90s. And it really awakened me to the idea that workplace spirituality is not just an individual experience, it is much more expansive than that. He wrote, "Business, the motor of our society, has the opportunity to be a new creative force on the planet, a force which could contribute to the well-being of many. For that to occur, we must all substantially increase our commitment to integrity and to courageously making a quantum leap in consciousness, beyond conventional solutions, beyond opposing forces, beyond fear and hope." I do want to mention that Chris Laszlo and Fred Sau have written a book called Quantum Leadership that really is about how to make this quantum leap. I highly recommend it. And Chris, we need to have you as a guest on one of our Edgewalker cafes so that you could share more specifically with us. So my background is in workplace spirituality, and I really have seen an evolution over the last, oh golly, well, in my experience, the last 30 years. And when I first started to see if there was anything written about workplace spirituality, the only thing I could find in the early 90s was a book by Robert Greenleaf called The Servant as Leader, which many organizations adopted this idea of servant leadership. And for some, it was really very much a spiritual way of looking at things. And in the early 90s, there started to be more organizational practices in the media, things like US News and World Report and Fortune magazine and Tokyo Shimbun and London Sunday Times and Chicago Tribune, all kinds of magazines and newspapers started talking about this workplace spirituality movement. And it was primarily centered in organizations, and then academics began studying it. So in the year 2000, there was a real academic explosion with the creation of the Management, Spirituality, and Religion Interest Group at the Academy of Management. And around the same time, there were professional organizations for business leaders and for change agents, such as the Conscious Capitalism Institute, and then more recently, the Conscious Leadership Guild. These are some of the organizations that are really looking at workplace spirituality and spiritual leadership, and primarily looking at the individual and group and system level. And then Chris was is a very central part of Business as an Agent of World Benefit, which is at the Fowler Center at Case Western University, where students and others all over the world look for examples of organizations that are making a positive difference to the world, that see themselves as contributing to the what's really good for all people, good for the world. So in my mind, there are a lot of different things that are driving this expansion from individual spirituality to systems change at a higher consciousness level, to now looking at the whole planet and all of humanity and all sentient beings, all living things. So we're all very well aware of polarization in the US government, but also in many other governments around the world. Brazil is a great example, and there's so many examples of authoritarian leaders that thrive on creating polarization as a way of gaining more control. And then, of course, COVID-19 and the pandemic is something that the whole human race has experienced together, and it is only together that we can solve it and make the world safe for everyone. And that's all in the bigger context of the climate crisis, which isn't as in our face as COVID-19, but it is even more threatening if we don't pay attention to it. And again, it's something that everyone would have to play some part in creating climate sustainability and resilience, planetary resilience, human resilience. And then on the positive side, the internet, and obviously Zoom as part of the internet, they're part of the technology that really supports interconnection and understanding. If we are attempting to try to create more connection, we have the technology that supports us in doing that. And these are definitions that were created based on conversations with the Global Consciousness Institute, which in the beginning was Ina Giocondi, myself, and Julia Storberg Walker. And now Chris has joined us in that conversation, as well as Paul Schmidt, and others are joining that conversation too. And so we see global consciousness through three different lenses, all of which have different practices and different approaches, and all of which are intertwined. So one of them is that global consciousness is something that can reside within me. I could see myself as a global citizen, as caring for all of humanity. So it's beyond egocentric and tribal centric. So many of you, I'm sure, feel this very same way, feel a sense of connection and oneness to all of humanity, to the planet, to all living things. So it's an experience that's internal to a person. And then it's also an aspect of leadership development. So there are programs where people are trained in wisdom practices and in the integration of this linear, non-linear, non-dual ways of knowing. That's what the quantum leadership program does as an example. There's other programs called authentic leadership that aim at getting at that deeper sense of ways of knowing, a mindset that goes from me to we to all. So there's, because of these programs and because of this inner awakening of so many in humanity, there's really this shift of seeing that there's just one humanity, one human race. At the same time, we still celebrate the uniqueness and value of each person. Each is a unique expression of the divine. Each person has his or her own culture, their own voice, their own dreams. So it's holding the paradox of uniqueness and oneness at the same time. The third lens of looking at global consciousness is this collective phenomenon where we as a human race begin to perceive ourselves collectively, which I think the COVID-19 had a lot to do with moving us along the scale towards that, where everyone is committed to the greater good, working together for all these kinds of issues like climate crisis, world peace, for the well-being of all living things, and social justice for the oppressed, trying to create a world that really works for all. So some different approaches to global consciousness are listed on this page. One is a contemplative approach, which I didn't realize I was doing that, but in the beginning, modeling types of meditation where we connect energetically, seeing ourselves as global citizens, seeing ourselves as energetic points around the planet, connected for something that's of greater good. One example of this is the Global Coherence Initiative in partnership with Institute of Noetic Sciences and, I'm forgetting the name of the organization. Um, but Roger Nelson is a part of this with his earlier research at Princeton Engineering Anomalies Lab, the Pear Institute. Maharishi University also has a lot of work that they're doing on this contemplative meditation connection that's not just an individual experience, but it's a global experience. Then there's the leadership development, like the Quantum Leadership Program at ITEA Institute that is now spreading to different parts of the world. And then there's economic ways of looking at this. And my favorite organization in this economic domain is a group called the Future of Capital, which is a United Nations group that has all kinds of programs. And most of its members are financial planners and financial managers who see that our capitalism's philosophy needs to change and are working on projects to make that change. And also they are supporting other projects that people are undertaking to change the economic interconnections among human beings for the well-being of all. There's the academic and research stream of global consciousness. So I mentioned Maharishi International University before. There's the Management, Spirituality, and Religion Interest Group at the Academy of Management. There's the Journal of Management, Spirituality, and Religion, which has a special issue series that is focusing on this kind of global consciousness and business and the intersection of East and West, where ancient wisdom meets the quantum sciences and how that can help humanity. Then there's approaches that are like between cities and regions, and there's many organizations that are looking at how to shift the consciousness and raise the vibration of different cities and regions. One of them is called Pivot Projects. You can find it at pivotprojects.org, and that is helping cities who are taking on initiatives like we're doing here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We have a program called Fayetteville Forward that it gets all citizens together and finds out what they're passionate about, uses appreciative inquiry as a way of getting people to find out who's doing what and who needs what and how to get organized. So it's creating a local sense of oneness, a strong sense of community and interconnectedness. And then there's the Global Consciousness Initiative that's an academic focused, primarily
Hello.
focused group. Yes, hello. Susan, would you be able to admit people if they're coming in? Because I can't see.
Yeah, I'm doing all of that, Judy. No worries. You
Right.
just continue. I'm not sure
Okay.
where that little voice came from, but
Okay. Thank you. We're almost done here, so we'll be able to have lots of voices in here for a minute. So the Global Consciousness Initiative is just being formed. That George Washington University and some external kinds of structures to support that. So some examples of different kinds of projects that people are involved in are things like what we call mapping the terrain. And that's basically finding out who else is working in this global consciousness domain. What kind of research are they doing, or programs, or what are their websites? How do people find the resources? And just seeing what's out there and helping people get interconnected. And then curriculum development, like it's really at the imagination stage right now, but if we were to create a course on global consciousness, say in a master's program an MBA program, what would that curriculum entail? What books would people read? What kinds of assignments would they have? And that curriculum development can also be used within corporations for leadership development, but it would, of course, be modified for that kind of environment. Then there's coaches training. One example of that is the ECO coaching program at George Washington University. And Tamara Hurl, who's on this call, does coach training in this kind of domain, and probably several of you, others of you do as well. And then something that we're hoping to do in the future is to have convenings of experts, bringing together 30 or 40 people from around the world who are experts at global consciousness from one of these aspects or another. For people to learn from each other and to say, where do we go collectively next in a way that would have impact and that would make a difference. So that's kind of what I want to share with you, is to plant some seeds for conversation. If you're here today, I know that that means you're interested in and probably doing something, whether it's on the individual level, the systems level, or the global level, or all three. But we want to find out what you're doing, what your questions are, what's passionate for you around this. So we're going to have breakouts for about, well, first I'll see if you have any questions in a minute when I end the PowerPoint. But when we have the breakouts, the questions will be, what does global consciousness mean to you? Because I've just shared some definitions that some of us think are central to defining it. But that doesn't mean that's the only way of looking at it. And then, what examples or stories of global consciousness has inspired you? And that could be something that you're doing yourself or that you've seen or read about, but we'll share what we see that's working. So I want to end
But
this.
Judi, before you end that PowerPoint,
Yep.
could you put that back, that slide, please, kindly?
Okay. Yes.
Could I ask Chris Laszlo if you could just note those questions down for your breakout room? And could I ask Anu Batnar, no, actually, wrong room there. Could I ask, Anu, if you could note those down for your room, Anu? And Tamara, would you be so kind enough to note those down for your room? So I'm taking that silence is golden and then you're all scribbling away. I've noted them down, so I'll pop in the room to help you. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Anu. And thank you, Tamara. Over to you, Judi.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Okay. So you can unmute yourselves now. And Linnea, welcome. It's so good to see you and see your picture. Virginia, oh, more folks have come in. Julia. So, hello. So questions, comments for, we'll take a few minutes for that and then send you into the breakout rooms. Just feel free to just unmute or raise your hand if you wish. Okay, Virginia.
Great to be here, Judi. I just wanted to caution us about using the word expert, because that's the old way. I think developmentally we have to call ourselves catalysts or even higher kinds of leaders where we empower each other. Expert tends to be a very lonely person who only knows one subject. So I train our reconciliation leaders as catalysts who would actually change the momentum of it. I think I didn't mean to criticize, because this is a wonderful project you're doing. But I just have to be careful of the language always. And I work at all three levels, but everything comes from an experience of consciousness myself. And as I move through my journey, I find that as I grow in consciousness, every time a block comes up, so I have to work on the block. So it means a continual commitment to growth, self-growth, self-knowledge.
I love that, Virginia. Thank you so much. That absolutely has to change. Yeah, and it's more the patriarchal, lonely, hierarchical kind of word, and we're in this together. We have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Chris. I saw your hand.
Yes, I want to say I'm so glad you said that, Virginia, because I also feel that that's somehow part of an old paradigm, the knower, it's this adventure that I think we're all on in pursuit of global consciousness is one that seems to me best fitted for a sense of exploration and inquiry and humility. And I think I also feel much more comfortable with the idea that none of us are particularly here as people who know anything more, but perhaps we are able to ask good questions and engage others in a good exploration, and that process can be transformative. So I'm glad you said that, Virginia. Yeah.
And Julia.
Thank you, Virginia and Chris. I want to echo Chris's gratitude for your question or your comment, Virginia, because I've been wrestling with language and how language shapes my ideas. And so when you think about expert, you think about hierarchy. Lately, I've been fixated on the word scalable and scalability because we want to grow, right? But the word scalable to me also comes from a cause and effect kind of space. And so what your comment brings up to me is another reminder that this work, we have to help each other relearn language and languaging what we're doing, but realizing that we're deeply embedded in a lineage of words that signify a paradigm, as Chris said. So just bringing it up to consciousness again, I'm very grateful to you for your comment.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, language is a part of consciousness.
Indeed. I mean, Judi, may I just slip in there on
Sure. And then Susie.
Yeah, Julia, you've really just ignited something for me there, about the real energy and energetics behind words, and that words really do matter, really to give us a felt shift or to help in a very subtle but powerful way reorientate the group or the individual. And here's a couple of examples. In the old era, BC, if we just say, what's my objective? Imagine when we're saying now, well, what's my intention? So instead of saying, what's my objective, what's my intention? And if we were to say in the old era, that what's my outcome of the objective, how about instead of outcome, we say impact? So, what's my intention and what's my impact? And I can see you nodding, Julia. So thank you so much for bringing up that point about the wonderful energy of words. Over to you, Judi.
Well, and over to Susie, and then this will be the last comment, and we'll go into breakout rooms. And then there'll be more you can say in the room and more you can say when you come back. But Susie, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone from London. I hit a brick wall with the first word of John Harmon's quote that you shared, Judi, and I have to keep putting it to one side because the word business, the motor of our society, has the opportunity to be a new creative force on the planet. That was such a great quote that I wrote it down. And then every time I stared at the word business, I kept seeing the word busyness. And actually, is busyness the motor of our society? Or should we maybe be moving away from that model? And my brain, having a butterfly brain, went off on a tangent, and I had to keep pulling it back because what it reminded me of was a weekend I spent with Hazel Henderson and Vandana Shiva 30 years ago. And Hazel Henderson was talking to us about her book called Paradigms in Progress at the time, and she was talking about a new economics for capitalist societies, in which the thing that never gets weighed in a capitalist or a business model is the element of compassion. And that's why I've joined this workshop, because to me, compassion is almost like the hidden aspect of busyness and economics as we see them. And I just thought it was really interesting that the unpaid labor, mainly of women, but not solely, all over the world, which is based on compassion and caring, and it's not monetized, and it's a love economy, I think that's what Hazel Henderson called it, is very pertinent to the kind of spiritual communities and the global consciousness that I think you're talking about. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. And the idea of conscious capitalism is an interesting one in terms of its own paradox, and whether or not we can get out of the dominant capitalistic negative impact into the interconnectedness of capitalism for good. So I think it's time to break you into groups for about, let's see, we'll do 10 minutes. And Susan, you're ready to send us off?
I am indeed, Judy. We have 3 groups, and so I'm going to send you off, and I'll give you a 1-minute warning in the group before it's time to come back. It will just come up automatically in the group. And Judy, I mean, when everyone comes back, so will there be a harvest from each of the 3 groups, Judy?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we would like to have each group report in. So thank you for reminding me, Susan, that we'd like someone to be willing to be the reporter for your group. And we look forward to hearing what comes out of your conversation.
Marvelous. And so the questions are, what does global consciousness mean? And what sort of stories and examples have inspired you? And Julia kindly, I believe, put that in the question in the chat, but you can't see the chat in the breakout room. So do grab that. And Anu's gone. So Patricia, could you take for room 2 those questions down, please? And then actually Tamara's gone as well. So Julia's nailed it for room 3. Is Tamara here? No, I can't see her. No, not on the list.
She's waving her hand.
Well, Tamara, you're not showing up, funnily enough, in the room. So I'll have to see if I can get you into a room after everyone's gone in. But you're definitely showing up on the room list. So that's interesting. So you'll get left out tomorrow, but I'll put you in afterwards. Okay. Bye, everybody. 10 minutes. Bye. See you.
And so this is our room, Susan? Oh,
yeah, okay. We're in the main room. We're back in the main room. I'm just double checking everyone's in. So we've got room 1 has got Chris in it with Debbie and Maria and Susie Clark. And room 2 has only got 2 people in room 2 now. Somebody dropped out. Who's that? Okay, so I wonder if I could swap someone over. No, it's a bit rude to do it now. So what a shame, room 2's only got 2 people in it. Someone's jumped. Okay, and then room 3 has got Eric, Julia, Tamara, and Virginia. So would
it's all perfect.
You think that's okay? So it's Lynn and Patricia, or Linea and Linnea and Patricia are in room 2 by themselves.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Is it? Oh, good.
Yes, because Linnea, Patricia, and I all met in the early 90s at Cropalo Consultant Collaborative. We are all old, dear friends.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
well, you and I are still recording now, by the way, so you could pause record if you'd like. Now, and it's 25.
All right. Welcome back. All right, so we'd love to hear what you found, what you learned in your groups or what you shared. So I'm going to start with the group that Chris was in. And I don't know who you have as spokesperson.
Okay. I don't think we even discussed that, but I did my best to take some notes.
Thank you.
And I would invite, of course, my colleagues, Susie and Debbie and Maria, to share as well. So, we really only tackled the first question, what does global consciousness mean to each of us? And I just want to share some of the things that came up. One is that it's still something that feels consciousness is very much at the individual level. it's hard to see a shared global consciousness because there's so much divisiveness or divisiveness in the world. I think all of us had some questions about at what level should we be thinking about our global consciousness? Is it truly a planetary idea, or is it something that is more at the level of civil society or in the groups that we are a part of? We talked about the power of prayer, the sense of oneness. I think it was very well said that global consciousness feels both like this gigantic experience, but also something that is inside of ourselves. So it has both this great external dimension and this internal dimension. Actually, there was one story, which was a story about gardening and planting seeds and seeing them germinate for the first time, and how that experience was sort of a manifestation of global consciousness. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if Susie or Debbie or Maria, would you like to add anything to that? Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
I think, oh, I'm sorry. I think one thing I was going to mention somehow, and I don't know how it really fits in, but I remember when I sit on the ocean, on the beach at night and look up to the sky and I see all the stars. I mean, a sky full of stars. It reminds me that I'm on a planet and I'm only one tiny, tiny, tiny piece of it. And all those stars just kind of enhance my sense of how big the world is, I guess. That I don't know how to explain it. It makes me feel really small, but it also makes me feel like I'm part of something really, really big beyond just the planet. So I don't know how that really applies to global consciousness, other than it just reminds me of my place, just one small thing. And I don't know, but there's something very, I don't want to say freeing. There's something interesting about realizing that there's so much more out there than just us. And maybe, I guess, it kind of makes me realize our planet, we're too egocentric. We're not the only planet in the world. We're not the only planet in existence. We're just a smaller part of something way bigger.
Right.
So, and I think that as we do more space exploration and that type of thing, should we ever find life somewhere else out there, which I believe there is, but if we ever reach it, talk about global, beyond global consciousness at that point, right? That would be pretty wild. But anyway, that's what came into my mind from this whole discussion. It may not even be relevant, but so I'll stop.
Oh, great. Thank you, Debbie.
Everyone's saying it's totally relevant. And these experiences of oneness and interconnectedness and they're beyond words. And so we always get awkward when we try to explain them. But, when you watch other people's faces, when you tell your stories of the seedlings or the stars or holding a brand new baby or whatever the experience might be, I think our hearts expand when we hear those stories and we feel more connected. They're important to talk about, even if we're awkward. Yeah, so thank you. All right, let's go to group 2. Group 2, Linnea and Patricia, old dear friends.
That was so nice. Wonderful to have the time together. So thank you. Well, Linnea shared, and Linnea, honey, pipe in if I, don't share well. She just shared some resources and platforms and things that she utilizes, such as spiral dynamics with her, these are with her clients, and the constellation work. And you said a gentleman, was it Thomas Hubel, who talks about healing the collective trauma, which actually sounds fascinating to me. I've not heard of that. And also having your own teachers, your spiritual guidance and your spiritual teachers. I mean, anything else you want to say? You delve into a little more deeply. Those are a few things that I remembered you shared about as it relates to work that you're using to work with your clients and leadership talks and conversations. And anything else, honey, you want to bring into that?
Yeah, I mean, the grace of having access to our senior executives and being able to level up their mindset. And I find it has to do with like how broadly are they willing to embrace, what swath of the planet, right? And it's like, I remember working at the Parliament of World Religions and seeing that our spiritual leaders were the ones that were filling in for what the governments were failing with. And it's like, how do we bring that mindset of service to our senior executives? And more that's really happening. I find that, and especially in COVID times, they just, so many of my executives went through a period of massive depression, and just a total loss of their program, right? And their programming. It was just like, oh my God. And so what opened up was like a much greater spirit of service, and also people being on the front lines. So yeah, and the tools the assessments that are coming out, like Leadership 360 and stuff like that, is just so fascinating. Or Leadership Circle, because it's really consciousness based and all the Keegan work, and it's just like so exciting to me. So I'm really finding it taking a hold. But for me personally, it's just the look at David Hawkins, scale where he codified emotions and the frequency, right? Or and how quickly in spiral dynamics in crisis we go back down to beige, right? And it's like, and so what do we need to keep leveling up, right? And Buddha, Dharma, Sangha seems to be the thing over and over, right? It's like, having the right teacher, having the right community, and having the right things that we think about and feed our mind and body and spirit. And it's like, oh my God, without it, it's like, the noise is so intense. So it's like, and I got one word when I was lying here, I'm just post-surgery. What is the rest of my life about? It was so weird to get this one word, precision. I'm like, hello, what? Precision. It's like precision of what's the world that we really want to create, and hold tight to that and connect with others and keep holding that. It will keep emerging and other will drop away, but it's a practice. It is a moment to moment experience. So anyway, some of that.
No, thank you so much. And I just quickly to build on that, beautifully said, Linnea, is lately I've had so many amazing people, clients, family, friends, colleagues call me in complete breakdown mode. These are very conscious people, like absolutely breaking down. And it's, who am I? What am I about? What's next for me? And they're kind of up against their edge, talk about an edge walker in a deep, deep way. And what I'm really working to guide, this is a little more on the individual level, but a lot of these people run companies and businesses and are mothers and children and everything, is that they're up against, they're given an opportunity now to really break down and break through any limitation about who they think they are and any false identities about who they are, and really to connect with, I would say, their divine, their authentic being, their authentic alignment of their purpose, and to bring people to an individual and therefore collective level, because we are connected, of consciousness, which is an elevated, it's an elevated from where we've come from. So many people, let alone our societies and organizations, are in that huge transition of letting go, and then the grief involved with that, and not knowing what's coming next. So that transition, but it's all the journey of consciousness. Consciousness, I think, is also a journey and a process. So I find it exciting, but the rubber hit, this is where the spiritual rubber meets the road, if you ask me. It's like a lot of us have been preparing for this time. So it's exciting, but it could be messy, but it's also, anyway, so I just will share that. And just to watch the movie, I've been saying to people, watch the movie. Don't get too caught up in the narrative of fear and, oh my God, to keep the vibration high as we work through raising our consciousness.
Thank you so much, Patricia and Linnea. I'm just really profoundly opened up by your words. And I see others nodding as you're speaking. And so we're going to move to group 3, Eric and Julia and Virginia. Who's speaking for your group, or do you all want
I
to?
volunteered. We discussed this at the end of our discussion, so I'm working entirely off memory here.
Thank
so
you,
Julia
Eric.
and Virginia can jump in and help, and we had tomorrow too. So we kind of wove together a bit both the what do we see global consciousness as, and there are a couple examples emerged from that. We talked about Thomas Hugel briefly too, but I think a couple of the definitions that came up around global consciousness was, like truly at that global level, sort of being able to take the perspectives of other people and other beings on the planet now and in the future, and having that compassionate connection to them that helps foster action. But also at the community level, and that bringing together communities of, not necessarily even like-minded, but that they were maybe working in a similar space, and having that sort of that communal energy, or sort of collective thought there, but also at the same time clearly recognizing the unique aspects and contributions of each individual in those groups, and sort of having both those types of experiences. But then a couple examples came out, like Virginia talked about some of the work that she's done at the UN, and having had this experience during the Cold War of sort of a sense of connectedness and awareness to the Soviet Union that really informed a lot of the thinking that she was doing going forward. And Virginia, I'm probably really shortchanging the description of the experience, so if you want to jump in on it, but it was a really tangible example of something that was playing out in real time. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Thank you, Eric. I'll just add that when I was in Sweden, I put my hand in the sea us in Sweden, and all of a sudden I felt this oneness with the people in the Soviet Union. This is during the time we were enemies, and this changed me forever. This mid-'80s, and I think what happens when we go into a bureaucracy, a patriarchy, like the UN, we break down, we forget who we are, and we get in conflict with each other. So holding that consciousness before at the doorway, before we even go in the building, is what I teach people.
And we also talked a little bit about the importance in that I think both Julie and Tamara are doing work around sort of indigenous and land healing, and sort of the global community and connectedness that's required to do that healing work, and that being really important. So there's a quick recap of ours.
Wow. Wonderful discussions and explorations, and I hope also that you felt some connectedness with like-minded people, or actually in Susan Furness's cafe a month ago, she talked about like-hearted people. And yeah, that hopefully you feel that real sense of heart, that each of us have our own work to do. We have to do it, and we're not doing it alone. And we're not the only ones, and we don't have to do it all.
Right.
But we do our part, whatever it is we most feel called to do. Yeah, that's the important thing. And the Sangha, the community, for me is extremely important in this global shift of consciousness, that there are many Sanghas, many communities, many religious communities, many work-based communities, academic communities, artistic communities. There's so many, and they overlap, and they're all longing for something similar, a better world that works for all. Not everyone is like that, but there's an increasing number of people that are coming together with this shared vision. So I really want to honor you all for the work that you're doing, and for June just joined us from London. We'll have to say hello to her. Oh, sweet June, we are ending. We missed you.
Oh,
June does incredible, beautiful work around global consciousness and music, as music from around the world for global peace, world peace. And I'm so sorry, June, but we will have a recording of the session, so we'll send that out to you.
All right. I was doing a recording about music and healing and music and eudaimonia, and I had it in my diary as 1500, but I've obviously done the time calculations wrong.
So sorry. But
when's the next one?
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful segue. I can't pull up my PowerPoint.
July, Judi, I'm facilitating it on July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
There
we go.
I don't know what time yet. It might be either 11 or 12 Eastern. I don't know. I'll let you know ASAP.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the topic I'm still formulating that. So
yeah, so we'll put that
July
in the
1st. We'll put it in the newsletter soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
On July 29th, Susan Furness is going to be inviting Elizabeth Sartouris to be her guest. We don't know if that'll happen or not, but that is the goal. And then August 26th, I will be hosting with Cindy Wigglesworth, who is the creator of the Spiritual Intelligence Assessment. So she'll be talking about her work on deep change and spiritual intelligence. And Susan, you had another announcement.
Thank you, Judi. Yeah, so I do hope that Elizabeth Sartouris is able to join on July 29th. For those of you that don't know, and those of you that do, Elizabeth is the evolutionary biologist that we all go to when we really want to connect what's happening in global consciousness by really looking at what nature is telling us. And so hopefully Elizabeth now lives in Hawaii, so we will probably have an evening time for this for the States and a morning time for us, June, in Europe and the Middle East. So yes, the other announcement, Judi, thank you very much. I just wanted to talk about summer programs that I launched here in Arabia under the banner of strategic heartistry, an alternative to strategic planning, very much with the underbelly and the nourishment of the vocabulary and philosophy of Edgewalkers by Dr. Judi Neal. Those programs are going really, really well. So I'm offering these for individuals and for small groups. And the alternative to strategic planning really helps us talk in before we talk out. That's both into ourselves and into the family or the community or the organization, whatever it is that we're really stepping out with great courage to lead, and courage being cœur in French for heart, courage being the heart age, and strategic heartistry being a little bit different from strategic planning, from saying, letting it help us get from here to here instead of from here to there. So still having a vision for over there, for that intention that we spoke about earlier, but much really taking sort of those quantum leaps, those small significant steps. And so it connects the heart, the head, the hands to plans, and really does embrace the archetypes of change of Edgewalkers and the Edgewalker qualities of being and skills. So if you'd like to get in touch with me for those, my contact's on the Edgewalker website, and just put Edgewalker when you communicate to me, and I know that at Heartistry Edgewalker, or go to www.strategicheartistry.com. Thank you so much, Judi. Over to you.
Would I just add something, Judi?
Yes, please.
On the 6th and the 7th from Boston University, we're doing a conference on music, spirituality, and well-being with contributions from many continents broadly in that area. I'm doing something on music and dying, but also on all the courses that are available on the internet on music and eudaimonia and well-being, because there's plenty of it out there, and some of it costs quite a lot. And there'll be papers on a whole variety of areas. So if you look at the music mswinternational.org website, you will see, and it's concentrating particularly on the way it's worked during the pandemic. So would it be possible to put that in the newsletter?
Yes, send me the information. I'll send it out, June.
Yep. Lovely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Susie, did you want to? Oh, okay. You just want the information. Any other announcements from anything anyone else is doing?
So can I just say that on October 21st, I'm having a program. It's the 20th anniversary of our Institute for Global Leadership. And I'm honoring an awardee who's one of the reconciliation leaders who made a difference in New York City through being executive director of the Civic Engagement Commission. And she's a Muslim woman, extraordinary woman who's done amazing things for New York as a leader. That's October 21st.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations. That's a beautiful thing to do. All right. And Prasad,
How do we get in touch?
Prasad just joined us. I'm so
Hi.
sorry. Hi, Prasad. We're ending. We must have gotten time zones mixed up.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
so sorry. But we have a recording of this, and you and I can catch up and talk sometime soon as well.
Will do.
Yeah, we need to close because we've gone over time.
Sure.
So I want to thank you all so much for being here, even if you just came in at the last minute. Your presence helps us to be more connected, and very sweet to have you here. We look forward to seeing you again next month or in one of the following months. But take care and remember that you're interconnected in more ways than you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Judi.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you, Debbie.
Bye, Debbie.
Bye, everybody. Thank you all so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, June.
June, you look lovely, June.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye, Maria.
Hi, Maria. I there. Judi, this is my oh, Maria's gone. That is my yoga teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, she's so lovely that she's just gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to stop the recording.
That was lovely, Judy. Well
that
done.
was wonderful.